The words that slipped from Elena Whitmore's lips on that rainy Boston night would haunt her forever. Black hands don't touch my car. 4 syllables of prejudice that revealed a darkness she never knew lived inside her. But fate has a twisted sense of humor, as the man she insulted becomes the only one who can save her grandfather's beloved Capri in time for the gallery preview that could make or break her career. As these 2 wounded souls rebuild an engine, unexpected feelings ignite between them, threatening everything Elena thought she knew about herself and the polished world she's created. Will Marcus Hale's steady hands repair more than just a classic car? Or will the whispers of her terrible mistake destroy any chance at redemption? Subscribe now and comment where you're watching from to see how a single moment of fear can change 2 lives forever. Elena Whitmore gripped her steering wheel tighter as her beloved 1972 Ford Capri shuddered beneath her. Rain pelted the windshield in heavy sheets, blurring the red traffic light ahead. The engine sputtered once, twice, then died with a final, pathetic wheeze. "No, no, no," she whispered, turning the key again. The engine clicked but wouldn't catch. "Not today, please, not today." Cars lined up behind her, their headlights creating a wall of glare in her rear-view mirror. A horn blared, then another. Elena's cheeks burned as she tried the key again. Nothing. She fumbled for her phone to call roadside assistance when a white service van pulled alongside her. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a man in a navy work shirt. Rain dripped from his short, curly black hair as he leaned out. "Need some help?" he called over the drumming rain. "I'm a mobile mechanic." Relief flooded through Elena. "Yes, please. It just died at the light." The man nodded and pulled his van ahead, parking it at an angle that would shield her from traffic. Elena watched as he grabbed a small toolbox and jogged through the rain toward her car. As he approached, something twisted in Elena's stomach. The combination of honking horns, the rain pounding on her roof, and the growing line of angry drivers overwhelmed her. Her gallery opening was tomorrow, and her restored Capri was supposed to be the centerpiece of the charity auction preview. Now she was stuck in the rain with a stranger approaching her car. When he reached her window, she rolled it down just enough to talk. Water dripped from his face as he bent down. "Hi there, I'm Marcus. Let me help you get to safety first. Then we can figure out what's wrong." His voice was calm, professional. But in that moment, all Elena saw was a strange man reaching for her door handle. All the warnings her mother had ever given her flashed through her mind. The stress of the gallery opening, the car breaking down, the angry drivers behind her. It all crashed together in her head. As Marcus reached toward the door, Elena's panic took over. "Black hands don't touch my car," she blurted out. The words hung in the air between them. Marcus froze. His expression hardened, his hand still outstretched. Time seemed to stop as Elena registered what she'd just said. Horror washed over her. Had those awful words really come out of her mouth? She'd never said anything like that before. She didn't even think that way. I didn't mean," she stammered. Marcus straightened up, his face now carefully blank. "Ma'am, you're blocking traffic and in danger. I need to get your car to safety, that's all." More horns blared behind them. A driver shouted something from an open window. Elena swallowed hard and nodded, unable to meet his eyes. "I'm sorry. Please help me." "Put it in neutral," Marcus instructed, his voice professional but distant. "I'm going to push you to that side street." Elena did as she was told, releasing the brake as Marcus moved to the back of her car. With remarkable strength, he pushed the Capri through the intersection and onto a quiet side street. The effort it must have taken in the rain made her shame deepen. Once safely parked under a flickering street lamp, Elena sat frozen, hands still clutching the wheel. What had just happened? What had she just said to this man who was only trying to help her? Marcus approached her window again, rain streaming down his face. "Pop the hood, please." Elena pulled the lever with trembling fingers. She watched in the side mirror as Marcus raised the hood and shined a flashlight inside. After a few minutes, he came back to her window. "Looks like your fuel pump is failing," he said, keeping his distance. "I can get you running temporarily, but you'll need to get it properly fixed." "Thank you," Elena whispered, the words feeling completely inadequate. Marcus worked quickly, his movements precise. After about 20 minutes, he closed the hood and returned to her window. "Try it now, but don't go over 25 miles per hour and get it to a shop tomorrow." Elena turned the key. The engine sputtered, then caught with a rough idle. "Thank you," she said again, reaching for her purse. "Please, let me pay you for your time." Marcus stepped back, shaking his head. "No need, just get it fixed properly." "I'm really sorry about what I said." Elena tried again, her voice shaking slightly. "I don't know why I—" "It's fine," Marcus cut her off, though his tone made it clear it wasn't. "Drive safe." He turned and walked back to his van, leaving Elena sitting with her running car and the weight of her words. The drive home was slow and careful, just as Marcus had instructed. Elena noticed his van following at a distance for the first few blocks, making sure she was safe, before turning off onto another street. That small kindness after what she'd said made her feel even worse. By the time she reached her apartment, Elena's hands were still shaking. She couldn't stop replaying the moment over and over in her head. The look on Marcus's face when those horrible words had tumbled out of her mouth. The professional way he'd helped her anyway. The distance he'd kept. She hadn't slept well that night, tossing and turning as rain lashed against her bedroom window. By morning, she knew what she needed to do. The next day dawned gray but dry. Elena got up early, showered, and dressed in simple jeans and a sweater. Nothing like the tailored outfits she usually wore to the gallery. She stopped at the corner cafe and bought 2 large coffees and a box of pastries. Finding Marcus's garage wasn't difficult. His van had Hale Mobile Mechanics painted on the side with a phone number. A quick internet search led her to a small, single-bay garage tucked between a laundromat and a hardware store. When Elena pulled up, Marcus was rolling up the metal door of the garage. He paused when he saw her Capri, then continued opening the garage without acknowledging her. Elena parked and took a deep breath before getting out with the coffee and pastries. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears as she approached. "Good morning," she said, stopping a respectful distance away. "I brought coffee and an apology." Marcus glanced at her, then at the coffee in her hands. "You didn't need to do that." "I did," Elena said quietly. "What I said yesterday was inexcusable. I was stressed and scared, but that's no excuse for what came out of my mouth." She placed the coffee and pastries on a nearby workbench, then reached into her pocket and pulled out an envelope. "I wrote this last night," she said, placing it beside the coffee. "It's not asking for forgiveness, it's just me owning what I did wrong. No excuses." Marcus looked at the envelope for a long moment before picking it up. He opened it carefully and read the handwritten letter inside. His expression didn't change, but something in his shoulders relaxed slightly. "I appreciate this," he said finally, refolding the letter and placing it in his pocket. "Most people would have just moved on." "I couldn't," Elena admitted. "And I wanted to ask if you'd consider looking at my car. It needs to be fixed properly, like you said." Marcus studied her for a moment. "Why me? There are plenty of shops in Boston." "Because you already know what's wrong with it," Elena said. And because I'd like a chance to show you that what you heard yesterday isn't who I am. Marcus crossed his arms. If I take this job, I need you to understand something. I'm a professional mechanic, ASE certified. I've been working on cars since I was 14. I need to be treated with that respect. Of course, Elena nodded. That's exactly what you deserve. All right, Marcus said, after considering for a moment. Let's take a look at your car together. See what we're dealing with. Relief washed over Elena. Thank you. They walked over to the Capri, and Marcus gestured for her to open the hood. As he leaned in to inspect the engine, Elena noticed how careful and precise his movements were. This is a beautiful car, Marcus said, his voice softening slightly. 1972 Capri? Not many of these around anymore. It was my grandfather's, Elena explained. He left it to me when he passed away 2 years ago. I've been trying to keep it in good condition. Marcus nodded approvingly. You've done a good job overall, but there are a few issues that need attention. He pointed to several spots in the engine. Brittle fuel lines here. The pump is definitely failing. These belts are cracking too. Elena listened attentively as he explained each issue. She had always loved cars, something she'd inherited from her grandfather along with the Capri. His patient explanations made her feel more comfortable. I'd like to do a full inspection this afternoon if you have time, Marcus suggested. Then we can make a plan for the repairs. That would be great, Elena said. I actually need it running well in 3 weeks. There's an auction preview at my gallery, and the car is part of the display. 3 weeks is doable, Marcus said, closing the hood. I'll need to order parts, though. Whatever you need, Elena assured him. I want it done right. They moved to a small desk in the corner of the garage where Marcus pulled out several parts diagrams for her Capri. These are the parts we'll need to replace, he said, pointing to various items on the diagram. The fuel pump is the priority, but while we're at it, we should refresh the ignition system and replace those belts. Elena nodded, taking notes in her planner. I can order OEM-grade parts, if that helps. That would be ideal, Marcus agreed, seeming surprised by her knowledge. As they discussed the parts needed, Elena's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It's my mother. Do you mind if I take this? Marcus gestured for her to go ahead. Elena put the phone on speaker as she continued to write in her planner. Hi, Mom, she answered. Elena, darling, how are you? Is the car fixed yet? The preview is coming up so quickly. I'm working on it now. I'm with the mechanic, Elena replied. There was a pause on the other end. Oh, I see. And is the mechanic appropriate? Elena winced, looking up at Marcus, who had definitely heard the question. His expression remained neutral, but she saw the slight tightening around his eyes. Mom, I need to go. I'll call you later, Elena said quickly, ending the call. She turned to Marcus. I'm sorry about that. Marcus shrugged. Family, I get it. But his tone was cooler than before. No, it's not okay, Elena said firmly. And I don't want you to think I share those views. Marcus studied her for a moment. Actions speak louder than words, Ms. Whitmore. Elena, she corrected. And yes, they do, which is why I'm here. A hint of a smile touched Marcus's lips. Fair enough, Elena. Let's schedule that inspection for this afternoon. Say, 3 o'clock? 3 o'clock works perfectly, Elena agreed, writing it in her planner. Thank you for giving me a chance to make this right. That evening, Elena arrived at her gallery to oversee preparations for the upcoming preview. The gallery was her pride and joy, a converted industrial space with exposed brick walls and high ceilings. She'd worked hard to build its reputation as a place that showcased both established and emerging artists. As she checked the lighting for a new installation, one of the valets approached her. Ms. Whitmore, Mr. Bennett is here to see you, he said with a smirk that made Elena uncomfortable. Before she could respond, Cole Bennett, her ex-boyfriend and a major donor to the gallery, strolled in. Tall and impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, Cole had the confident air of someone used to getting his way. "Elena, darling," he greeted, kissing her cheek. "How are the preparations coming along?" "Everything's on schedule," Elena replied, taking a step back. "The new pieces arrived this morning." "Excellent," Cole nodded. "And what about that classic car of yours? I heard you had some trouble yesterday." Elena stiffened. "How did you hear about that?" The valet who had announced Cole snickered nearby. "Word travels fast, Ms. Whitmore, especially when someone says something about black hands not touching their car." Elena felt the blood drain from her face. "That's not—" "Don't worry," Cole cut in smoothly. "I can help manage the optics on this. We don't want anything to overshadow the preview. Just let me handle the auction car. I know people who can make it perfect." Elena took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. "The car is being fixed by a very capable mechanic, but thank you for your concern." "Elena," Cole lowered his voice, placing a hand on her arm. "Think about the gallery's reputation. We can't afford any complications." "There won't be any," Elena said firmly, removing his hand. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do." Cole's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Of course. We'll talk more about this later." After he left, Elena stood for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. How had the valet heard about the incident, and how many others knew about her terrible moment? She walked out to the loading dock where her Capri was parked and sat in the driver's seat. The car still smelled faintly of her grandfather's pipe tobacco, a scent that always calmed her. She ran her fingers over the steering wheel, remembering all the times they had worked on the car together. Taking out her phone, she texted Marcus. "Parts arrive by 10 a.m. tomorrow." His reply came a few minutes later. "I'll be ready." Elena smiled slightly, feeling a strange sense of relief. At least with Marcus, she knew where she stood. He had been direct about his expectations, and she respected that. Tomorrow would be a new day, a chance to make things right. As she drove home that night, keeping under 25 mph as instructed, Elena found herself looking forward to the morning. There was something honest about working with her hands, about fixing something tangible. Perhaps in fixing her grandfather's car, she could start to fix the harm she had caused with her thoughtless words. She fell asleep that night, planning what to wear for a day in a garage. Something practical, something that showed she was serious about the work ahead. As she drifted off, she realized it had been a long time since she'd thought so carefully about making a good impression on someone. Not for business or social advantage, but simply because she wanted to be better than she had been. The next morning arrived with weak sunlight filtering through scattered clouds. Elena dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, pulling her blonde hair back into a practical ponytail. She arrived at Marcus's garage just before 10, the delivery truck with parts pulling up right behind her. Marcus emerged from the garage, clipboard in hand. "Good timing," he said with a nod toward the truck. They worked together unloading boxes of parts, setting them on Marcus's workbench. Elena noticed how organized he kept his tools, each one clean and in its proper place. The single-bay garage wasn't fancy, but it was immaculate. "Ready to get started?" Marcus asked, unboxing the new fuel pump. "Absolutely," Elena replied, rolling up her sleeves. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You're planning to help?" "If that's okay," Elena said. "My grandfather taught me a bit about cars. I'm not an expert, but I can follow instructions." A hint of a smile touched Marcus's lips. "All right then. First step is to relieve the fuel pressure before we disconnect anything." For the next few hours, they worked side by side. Marcus explained each step as they went, showing Elena how to safely disconnect the old fuel pump and prepare for the new one. His hands moved with confident precision, making the complex task look easy. "Hand me that wrench?" Marcus asked, pointing to a tool on the bench. Elena picked up the wrong one at first. Marcus shook his head. "The 916 one, blue handle." "Sorry," Elena said, selecting the correct wrench and passing it to him. Their fingers brushed briefly during the exchange. Elena noticed Marcus had calluses on his palms, hands that had clearly worked hard for many years. He handled the delicate components with surprising gentleness. By noon, they had successfully replaced the fuel pump and were working on the fuel lines. The garage was filled with the smell of rubber and oil, and Elena found it oddly comforting. It reminded her of weekends in her grandfather's garage as a child. "Let's take a break," Marcus suggested, wiping his hands on a shop rag. "I usually grab a sandwich from the deli next door." "I'll go get us something," Elena offered. "What do you like?" "Turkey on rye, no mayo," Marcus replied. When Elena returned with the sandwiches, they sat on overturned milk crates in the small patch of sunlight outside the garage. For a few minutes, they ate in comfortable silence. "This is really good," Elena said, gesturing with her sandwich. "Do you always eat lunch here?" Marcus nodded. "Usually. My sister Tasha sometimes brings me food when she's not working. She's a nurse aide at Boston General." "That's nice of her," Elena commented. "Are you too close?" "Very," Marcus said. "It's just been the two of us since our parents died. Car accident when I was 18 and she was 13. "I'm so sorry," Elena said softly. Marcus shrugged. "It was hard, but we managed. I was already working as an apprentice mechanic, so I just took on more hours, made sure Tasha stayed in school." Elena felt a new respect forming for the man beside her. "That couldn't have been easy." "Life rarely is," Marcus replied. "What about you? Any siblings?" Elena shook her head. "Just me and my mom. My dad died when I was in college. A heart attack." "That's tough," Marcus said simply. "It was," Elena agreed. "My mom took it really hard. They were together since high school." She paused, then added, "She's been extra protective of me since then." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. That explained some things. An uncomfortable silence fell between them as they both remembered the phone call from yesterday. "My mom means well," Elena said finally. "But sometimes her worry comes out in ways that aren't great." "Parents pass down what they know," Marcus said. "Good and bad." Elena looked at him. "But we get to choose what we keep, right?" A genuine smile spread across Marcus's face for the first time. "That we do." After lunch, they returned to work with renewed energy. Marcus labeled a plastic bin Capri Whitmore and neatly arranged the old parts they'd removed. "For reference," he explained when Elena asked about it. "Always good to keep track of what we've replaced." Elena smiled at his thoroughness. "Very professional." "Always," Marcus confirmed, his tone light but meaningful. "I take pride in doing things right." By late afternoon, they had replaced the fuel pump, lines, and started work on the belts. Elena had proven to be a quick learner, following Marcus's instructions carefully and asking thoughtful questions. "We've made good progress," Marcus said as they finished for the day. "Tomorrow we can finish the belts and check the ignition system." "Same time?" Elena asked, wiping her hands clean. "Works for me," Marcus agreed. "And Elena, you did good work today." The simple compliment warmed her more than she expected. "Thanks. I had a good teacher." As Elena drove home, the Capri running noticeably smoother already, she felt a strange sense of accomplishment. Her hands were dirty, Her back ached slightly from bending over the engine, but she felt more satisfied than after many of her gallery openings. She also couldn't stop thinking about Marcus. His quiet competence, the way he spoke without wasted words, how he had shouldered such responsibility at a young age. There was something compelling about his straightforward approach to life. The next morning, they fell into an easy routine. Coffee, Elena insisted on bringing it. Parts check, then work. The day passed quickly as they finished the belts and moved on to the ignition system. "Your grandfather took good care of this car," Marcus commented as they worked. "The engine is in great shape for its age." "He loved this car." Elena smiled. "He used to say it had personality." "He wasn't wrong," Marcus agreed. "These old cars, they talk to you if you listen." "That sounds like something he would say," Elena laughed. "He taught me to drive in this car when I was 16. Mom was terrified, but he insisted." As they worked, Elena found herself sharing more stories about her grandfather, and Marcus occasionally offered tales of cars he had restored over the years. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by the clicking of tools and the occasional instruction. Marcus wrote Elena's name on the day's whiteboard schedule. Elena, ignition test, 4 Worms. The simple act of seeing her name there gave her an unexpected thrill. At exactly 4 o'clock, they were ready to test the ignition. Elena sat in the driver's seat while Marcus stood by the open hood. "Go ahead," he called. Elena turned the key and the engine caught immediately, settling into a smoother idle than before. "Perfect!" Marcus exclaimed, a rare show of enthusiasm that made Elena smile. Just as they were admiring their work, a sleek black Mercedes pulled up outside the garage. Elena's stomach dropped as Cole stepped out, looking completely out of place in his expensive suit. "There you are," Cole called to Elena as he strolled into the garage. "I've been trying to reach you all day." Elena stepped out of the Capri. "I've been working, Cole. What do you need?" Cole's eyes swept around the small garage, his disdain evident. "Working? Here?" He lowered his voice, though not enough. "Elena, what are you doing? This isn't exactly the kind of place that suits someone in your position." Marcus continued checking the engine, his back stiffening slightly but otherwise showing no reaction. "My position is just fine," Elena said firmly. "Marcus is helping me restore my grandfather's car properly." Cole looked at Marcus for the first time. "No offense to your helper here, but I told you I know people who could make this car showroom ready for the preview. Professional restorers." Marcus closed the hood of the Capri with deliberate care before turning around. "I assure you, Mr. Bennett," Cole supplied, not offering his hand. "Mr. Bennett," Marcus continued evenly. "I am a professional, ASE certified with 15 years of experience specializing in classic European models." Cole waved a dismissive hand. "I'm sure you're very good at what you do. But Elena's donors are expecting polish. They're particular about appearances." "And substance," Elena cut in. "Marcus is doing excellent work. The car will be perfect for the preview." "Elena," Cole sighed, as if explaining to a child. "You know how important this event is for the gallery's reputation. We can't afford any issues." The implication hung in the air. Elena felt her cheeks burn with anger. "There won't be any issues," she said coldly. "And the gallery's reputation is my concern, not yours." Cole's smile tightened. "I'm just looking out for your best interests." He reached into his pocket and placed a glossy business card on Marcus's workbench. "In case you change your mind, this guy is the best in the business." After Cole left, an uncomfortable silence filled the garage. Marcus picked up the business card, examined it for a moment, then looked at Elena with a raised eyebrow. Elena nodded slightly, and Marcus dropped the card into the trash can. "Sorry about that," Elena said quietly. "Your boyfriend?" Marcus asked, his tone carefully neutral. "Ex?" Elena corrected quickly. "He's a donor to the gallery and thinks that gives him the right to have opinions about everything I do." Marcus nodded. "I see." "No, you don't," Elena said with surprising force. "Cole doesn't speak for me. What happened the other night, what I said to you, that wasn't because of him or my mother or anyone else. It was me, and I own that. Just like I'm owning my choice to have you work on this car because you're the best person for the job." Marcus studied her for a long moment, his expression softening. Okay. I believe you," he said simply. "Actions speak louder than words, remember?" Elena smiled, relief washing through her. "Thank you." They finished the day's work in comfortable silence, making plans for the following day's tasks. As they closed up the garage, Elena felt a growing sense of connection with Marcus. It wasn't just that he was teaching her about cars, or that he had given her a chance to make amends. There was something about his steady presence that made her feel more grounded, more herself. The next evening, as they were finishing up work on the car, the garage door opened, and a young woman in blue scrubs walked in. She had the same warm brown skin and expressive eyes as Marcus, though her hair was longer, pulled back into a neat bun. "Hey, bro," she called, setting down a canvas bag. "I brought you dinner before my shift." "Thanks, Tosh," Marcus replied, wiping his hands. "This is Elena Whitmore. Elena, this is my sister Tasha." Tasha's friendly smile froze slightly when she heard Elena's name. "Whitmore? As in the Capri owner?" Elena nodded, suddenly nervous. "That's me." Tasha's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "Mind if I borrow my brother for a minute?" Without waiting for an answer, she pulled Marcus to the other side of the garage. Though they spoke in hushed tones, Elena could make out parts of their conversation. "Is she the one who said, 'Yes, but,' and you're just working with her like nothing happened?" Marcus said something Elena couldn't hear, gesturing with his hands in a calming motion. Tasha shook her head, then looked over at Elena with an evaluating gaze. After a moment, Tasha walked directly over to Elena, her posture straight and professional. "So," Tasha said, crossing her arms, "Marcus tells me you're sorry for what happened. Are you sorry for him, or for how it might look for you?" The directness of the question caught Elena off guard, but she appreciated it. No games, no pretense. "For him," Elena answered honestly. "And for myself. What I said was wrong, and I hate that those words came out of my mouth. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to make it right." Tasha studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. "Fair enough." She turned to her brother. "Dinner's in the bag. I've got a double shift tonight." She squeezed Marcus's shoulder briefly before heading toward the door. As she passed Elena, she paused. "He's a good man, the best I know." "I can see that," Elena replied softly. After Tasha left, Marcus unpacked the dinner his sister had brought. Containers of homemade pasta and salad, enough for two. "Hope you're hungry," he said, offering Elena a container. "Tasha always brings too much." They sat on the milk crates again, this time inside the garage as evening settled in. "Your sister is protective?" Elena observed. Marcus nodded. "Always has been, even when she was little. After our parents died, we looked out for each other." "She seems to care about you a lot." "She does," Marcus agreed. "Just like your mom cares about you." Elena considered this. "They show it differently, though." "Different experiences, different lessons." Marcus shrugged. "Tasha's seen how the world can treat people who look like us. Makes her wary." Elena nodded, understanding the weight behind his words. That's fair. They ate in thoughtful silence for a while, the only sound the occasional passing car outside. Thank you for sharing your sister's dinner with me, Elena said finally. It's really good. Tasha's a great cook. Marcus smiled. She stress bakes too. Every exam in nursing school meant cookies for weeks. Elena laughed. That sounds like a good stress response. Better than some, Marcus agreed. What do you do when you're stressed? The question made Elena pause. Honestly, I get controlling. I like everything in its place, everyone doing what they're supposed to do. It's not always pretty. Explains the gallery work. Marcus nodded. Everything just so. Is it that obvious? Elena asked, a little embarrassed. The way you organize the parts, wipe down each tool before putting it back. Marcus smiled. Yeah, a little obvious. They shared a laugh, and Elena felt something warm settle in her chest. This easy conversation, the shared meal, the honest exchange, it felt good. Right. As they finished eating, Marcus glanced at his watch. It's getting late. We should probably call it a day. Elena nodded, gathering the empty containers. Same time tomorrow? Actually, Marcus said, I was thinking we could try a test drive tomorrow. See how she's running after all our work. I'd like that, Elena smiled. The Harbor Road would be perfect. Harbor Road it is, Marcus agreed. As Elena drove home that night, she realized she was looking forward to tomorrow more than she had looked forward to anything in a long time. The gallery preview, which had seemed so all-consuming just days ago, now felt like just one part of her life rather than the center of it. She wondered when she had last felt this way, engaged in something real, something honest, not worrying about appearances or impressions, just focused on doing good work with someone who valued the same. The thought of Marcus, his steady hands, his quiet humor, his integrity, stayed with her as she fell asleep. The next morning, Elena stopped at a small corner shop to pick up coffee for herself and Marcus. As she waited for the barista to prepare the drinks, she noticed an older Hispanic man watching her with curious interest. You must be Elena, he said finally, his accent softening his words. The one helping Marcus with the Capri. Yes, Elena replied, surprised. How did you know? The man smiled, extending his hand. I'm Mr. Ortega. I own this shop. Marcus comes in every morning. Last few days, he's been buying 2 coffees. Elena shook his hand, returning his smile. It's nice to meet you. Your name sounded familiar when he mentioned it, Mr. Ortega continued. Whitmore, yes? Your father was Thomas Whitmore? Elena nodded, surprised again. Yes, he was. Did you know him? Mr. Ortega's smile widened. Many years ago, when this shop was just opening, he helped a young mechanic I knew, gave him work on his cars when no one else would. That sounds like my dad, Elena said, warmth spreading through her at the memory of her father. He always said you should judge people by their work, not their background. A good man, Mr. Ortega nodded. The young mechanic he helped? He was Marcus's mentor. Taught him everything he knows. Elena stared at Mr. Ortega, processing this connection. So my father indirectly helped Marcus become a mechanic? The world is small, no? Mr. Ortega handed her the coffees with a wink. Tell Marcus I say hello. Elena left the shop feeling like something important had just happened, though she couldn't quite name what it was. When she arrived at the garage, Marcus was already checking over the Capri in preparation for their test drive. Morning, she greeted, handing him his coffee. I met Mr. Ortega at the corner shop. Marcus looked up, a smile playing at his lips. Did he tell you he's known me since I was 16? He did. Elena nodded. And he told me something else too, about my father. She carefully related what Mr. Ortega had told her. As she spoke, Marcus's expression shifted from surprise to thoughtful consideration. "I didn't know that," he said quietly when she finished. "My mentor, Joe Richardson, he never mentioned your father by name. Just said a good man had given him a chance when he was starting out." "That's a strange coincidence," Elena said. Marcus shook his head slightly. "Maybe not. Coincidence. Maybe something else." They looked at each other for a long moment, something new and undefined passing between them. The connection felt meaningful, as if their paths crossing hadn't been random chance after all. "Ready for that test drive?" Marcus asked finally, his voice gentler than before. Elena nodded, suddenly eager to be on the road with him, to see where this unexpected path might lead. The late afternoon sun cast golden light across the harbor, as Elena and Marcus took the Capri for its test drive. With the windows down, the warm breeze carried the scent of salt water and the distant sounds of boats in the harbor. Elena sat behind the wheel, feeling the familiar vibration of the engine through her hands. It sounded smoother now, running with more confidence after their work. "Take it up to 40 and see how she feels," Marcus suggested from the passenger seat. Elena pressed the accelerator gently, and the car responded with surprising eagerness. "She feels more alive," she said, smiling. "The new fuel pump is making a big difference," Marcus nodded. "And those ignition adjustments we made." They drove along the winding harbor road, the city skyline visible across the water. The car performed beautifully until they rounded a sharp curve, when the engine suddenly coughed and sputtered. "Whoa!" Elena said, easing off the gas as the car bucked beneath them. The engine stalled completely, leaving them silent on the side of the road. They looked at each other for a moment, then simultaneously burst into laughter. "Well, that was unexpected," Elena said, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes. "Cars always have one more surprise," Marcus chuckled. "That's what makes them interesting." His laugh transformed his face, softening the serious lines around his eyes and revealing a small dimple in his right cheek. Elena found herself staring, captivated by this new side of him. Marcus caught her looking and quickly cleared his throat. "Let's see what happened." They got out, and Marcus popped the hood. Elena stood close beside him, their shoulders nearly touching as they leaned in to examine the engine. "There," Marcus pointed. "See that connection? It's loose." Their hands brushed as they both reached for the same spot. Elena felt a small jolt at the contact, and for a brief moment, neither of them moved away. "I'll fix it," Marcus said softly, his voice different somehow. Working quickly, he tightened the connection. "Try it now." Elena got back behind the wheel and turned the key. The engine started immediately, purring with renewed energy. "Success!" she called through the open window. Marcus closed the hood and rejoined her in the passenger seat. "Let's head back and make some adjustments. I think we've learned what we needed to from this test." As they drove back toward the garage, a comfortable silence settled between them. The near touch of their hands still lingered in Elena's mind, along with the memory of Marcus's laugh. "Thank you," she said finally. "For what?" "For this." Elena gestured at the car, the road, the fading sunlight. "For giving me a chance to make things right. For teaching me about the car. For—" She hesitated. "For seeing me as more than what I said that night." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "We all say things we don't mean sometimes. The question is what we do after." "And what am I doing?" Elena asked, genuinely curious about his perspective. "You're showing up," Marcus said simply. "Every day, doing the work, being honest. That matters more than words." The directness of his answer touched something deep inside Elena. How long had it been since someone had seen her so clearly? Not as the gallery owner, or Thomas Whitmore's daughter, or Cole's ex, but just as herself? "Marcus," she began, not entirely sure what she wanted to say. "We should retune tomorrow morning," he cut in, his tone shifting back to professional. "9 sharp work for you?" Elena nodded, feeling the moment slip away. 9 sharp! Back at the garage, they made notes of the adjustments needed based on the test drive. As they worked, Elena found herself watching Marcus's hands. Strong, capable hands that created rather than destroyed, that fixed broken things with care and patience. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked as they finished for the day. "Same time," Marcus confirmed with a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. As Elena drove home, she realized something important had shifted between them during that test drive. What had started as an attempt to make amends had somehow become something more. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. The next morning, Elena arrived at her gallery early to prepare for a donor meeting. She was reviewing some paperwork when her mother and Cole walked in together, deep in conversation that stopped abruptly when they saw her. "Elena, darling," Vivian Whitmore greeted her with a kiss on the cheek. "We were just talking about the preview. Cole has some concerns." Elena straightened, immediately on guard. "What concerns?" Cole stepped forward, all business. "I've been hearing things, Elena, about you spending time at some garage in the industrial district with that mechanic." "His name is Marcus," Elena said evenly. "And yes, he's repairing grandfather's car for the preview." "Darling," Vivian cut in, her voice lowered. "Cole is worried about how this might appear to our donors. You know how conservative some of them can be." "How what might appear?" Elena asked, though she knew exactly what they meant. "You've been seen there every day this week," Cole said bluntly. "It's raising eyebrows. People are still talking about what happened that night in the rain." Elena felt heat rising in her cheeks. "I'm having my car repaired by a qualified professional. That's all." Vivian touched her arm gently. "We just want you to keep things tidy, for the gallery's sake." "The gallery is my responsibility," Elena said firmly. "And I don't see how my choice of mechanic affects our donors." "Elena," Cole sighed. "Be reasonable. Your personal choices reflect on this institution. You need to consider the bigger picture." Something inside Elena snapped. "The bigger picture? Like how treating people with respect and professionalism matters more than gossip? Like how judging someone by their character rather than assumptions is what we should be modeling?" "That's not what we're saying," Vivian protested weakly. "It's exactly what you're saying," Elena replied. "And I won't be part of it. Marcus is fixing my car because he's excellent at what he does. End of story." Cole's expression hardened. "You have to choose, Elena. The donors and stability for your gallery, or this friendship, you can't have both." Elena stared at him, suddenly seeing clearly what she'd been blind to during their relationship. "Yes, I can. And if any donor has a problem with me treating people with basic human dignity, they can take their money elsewhere." She gathered her things and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" Vivian called after her. "To check on my car," Elena answered without turning around. Outside, Elena took several deep breaths of fresh air. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she felt stronger than she had in years. She pulled out her phone and called Marcus. "Let's stick to the plan," she said when he answered. "No shortcuts." When Elena arrived at the garage, Marcus was already working on the retuning they had planned. His expression when he saw her was guarded. Everything okay? He asked, noticing her flushed face. Just some gallery drama, Elena said, rolling up her sleeves. Nothing important. They worked side by side for the next few hours, falling into their now familiar rhythm. As they broke for lunch, Elena suggested they try a new approach with the timing adjustment. If we swap this part here, she pointed to a diagram, we could improve the efficiency. Marcus frowned. That's a cosmetic fix. It would look good for the preview, but it's not addressing the root issue. But it would work, right? Elena pressed. The car would run fine for the event. Temporarily, Marcus admitted, but it's not the right way to do it. Why are you suddenly looking for shortcuts? Elena sighed, running a hand through her hair. The preview is coming up fast. I just want to make sure everything's perfect. Perfect looking or perfect working? Marcus challenged. Because those are different things. Their eyes met across the workbench, tension crackling between them. What's really going on, Elena? Marcus asked quietly. Elena looked away. Cole and my mother paid me a visit this morning. They're concerned about appearances. Ha! Marcus nodded, understanding immediately. And now you're feeling the pressure. No, Elena said quickly, then paused. Maybe a little, but that's not why I suggested the swap. I just want the car ready in time. The car will be ready, Marcus assured her. If we do it right. No games, no image fixes, no shortcuts. Elena studied his face, the steady determination in his eyes, the firm set of his jaw. This was a man who didn't compromise on his values, who did things right even when it was harder. You're right, she admitted. I'm sorry. Let's do it properly. Marcus's expression softened. That's all I needed to hear. They returned to work with renewed focus, and by late afternoon, they had completed the retuning. The car ran smoothly during a short test in the alley behind the garage. Much better, Marcus said with satisfaction. We'll do a final check 2 days before the preview, just to be sure. Belt and suspenders? Elena smiled. Always, Marcus nodded. Better safe than sorry. As they cleaned up for the day, Elena found herself lingering, reluctant to leave. There was something about the quiet competence of the garage, the honest work of their hands, that made her feel centered in a way the gallery rarely did. Same time tomorrow? She asked, hoping her eagerness didn't show too much. Same time? Marcus confirmed with a small smile that reached his eyes this time. That evening, a heavy rain settled over Boston again. Vivian Whitmore was leaving the market, grocery bags in hand, when she noticed her car sitting at an odd angle. Perfect, she muttered, seeing the flat tire. She fumbled in her purse for her phone to call roadside assistance when a service van pulled up beside her. The driver rolled down his window. Need some help, ma'am? Vivian peered through the rain at the young black man in the van. Something about his calm demeanor put her at ease despite her usual caution with strangers. I have a flat, she explained, gesturing to the tire. I can change that for you, the man offered. It'll only take a few minutes. Normally, Vivian would have declined and waited for official help. But the rain was coming down harder, and the man's professional manner reassured her. Thank you, she said. That's very kind. The man worked quickly and efficiently, despite the rain soaking through his jacket. He declined Vivian's offer to hold an umbrella over him, focusing instead on completing the job safely. All set, he announced after securing the spare tire. This is just a temporary, though. You'll want to get a proper tire soon. Thank you so much, Vivian said, genuinely grateful. May I pay you for your time? The man shook his head. No need, just glad to help. At least tell me your name, Vivian insisted, so I can recommend you. Marcus, he replied with a friendly nod. Drive safely, ma'am. As Vivian drove away, she glanced in her rearview mirror at the young man wiping his hands on what looked like a receipt before getting back in his van. Something about his name tugged at her memory, but in her relief to be heading home, she didn't make the connection. The next day dawned with perfect weather, golden sunlight and a gentle breeze. Elena and Marcus had spent the morning doing final adjustments to the Capri, and by late afternoon, they were ready for another test drive. Want to take the harbor road again? Elena asked as they prepared to leave. Actually, Marcus suggested, let's try a longer route this time. Really put her through her paces. They took the Capri out as the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon, casting everything in a warm glow. The car performed beautifully, responding to Elena's touch with eager precision. Listen to that purr, Marcus said appreciatively. Sounds like she's happy. Elena smiled, feeling the same contentment. She is. So am I. They drove with the windows down, a classic rock station playing quietly on the radio. When one of Elena's favorite songs came on, she sang along softly, forgetting for a moment that she wasn't alone. Marcus watched her with undisguised admiration. You have a nice voice. Elena blushed. Thanks. My dad and I used to sing this song on road trips. Good memory? The best. Elena nodded. He taught me to appreciate classic cars and classic rock. Sounds like we would have gotten along, Marcus said. I think you would have, Elena agreed. He judged people by their character, not their anything else. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. That's rare. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, following the coastline as the sun sank lower. The Capri's engine hummed steadily beneath them, a testament to their shared work. Can I ask you something? Elena said finally. That night, in the rain, when I said those terrible words to you, why did you still help me? Marcus was quiet for so long that Elena thought he might not answer. Because it was the right thing to do, he said finally. And because I could see you were scared. People say things they don't mean when they're scared. But you didn't know me, Elena pressed. You had no reason to believe I wasn't exactly who those words made me seem. True, Marcus admitted. But I've learned to look past words to actions. You needed help. I could provide it. The rest. He shrugged. The rest we're figuring out now. The simple wisdom of his approach struck Elena deeply. How different would her world be if more people, herself included, focused on actions rather than assumptions? Thank you, she said softly. Not just for helping then, but for giving me a chance to be better now. Their eyes met briefly, and something shifted in the air between them. Without thinking, Elena pulled the car over at a scenic overlook. The sun was setting over the harbor, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. It's beautiful, Marcus said, looking out at the view. It is, Elena agreed, though she was looking at him. When he turned and caught her gaze, neither looked away. In the golden light of sunset, with the gentle sound of waves below them, Elena leaned forward slightly. Marcus met her halfway, their lips touching in a tentative kiss. It was brief but perfect, gentle and honest, like everything between them had been. When they pulled apart, Marcus's eyes were filled with a warmth Elena hadn't seen before. She smiled, feeling a happiness that went far beyond the success of their car repairs. They drove back to the garage as dusk settled over the city, a new comfortable silence between them. As Marcus checked under the hood one last time, he noticed something concerning. There's a small oil weep here, he pointed out. It's minor, but we should reseal it before the preview, just to be safe. How about tomorrow at 3? Elena suggested. I have a gallery meeting in the morning. 3 works. Marcus nodded. Just a quick job. As they closed up the garage, neither mentioned the kiss, but something had undeniably changed. They moved around each other with new awareness, their casual touches lingering just a moment longer than necessary. "Good night, Elena," Marcus said as they parted at their cars. "Good night, Marcus," she replied, her smile containing a promise of tomorrow. The next afternoon, Elena arrived at her gallery for the donor preview meeting. The space had been transformed for the event, with elegant lighting and displays highlighting the artwork that would be auctioned for charity. Her mother was already there, directing the catering staff with her usual precision. Cole stood nearby, charming a group of potential donors with practiced ease. "Elena, darling," Vivian called when she spotted her. "Come meet the Hendersons. They're very interested in that sculpture you selected." For the next hour, Elena moved through the gallery, greeting donors and discussing the upcoming event. She was in her element here, knowledgeable and passionate about the art they were showcasing. Yet she found her mind wandering to Marcus, to the garage, to the honest work they'd been doing together. The kiss they'd shared felt more real than any of the polished conversations happening around her. As she checked the spot where the Capri would be displayed during the preview, she overheard a conversation between 2 valets setting up the entrance area. "That's her," one whispered, none too quietly. "The one who said that black hands shouldn't touch her car?" Elena froze, her heart sinking. The story had clearly spread further than she'd realized. "No way," the other valet replied. "She seemed so nice. Heard it straight from Joe, who was there that night. Said she told some black mechanic to keep his hands off her precious Capri, in public, with everyone watching." Elena felt sick. The account was twisted, made worse in the retelling, but the core shame was still there. She had said those terrible words, and now they were defining her in the eyes of others. She was about to walk away when she noticed Marcus standing just inside the gallery entrance. He was dressed differently. Dark jeans and a button-up shirt instead of his work clothes, clearly having made an effort for the gallery environment. Their eyes met across the room, and Elena knew, immediately, that he had heard every word. The hurt in his expression was quickly masked, but she had seen it. In that moment, all the trust they had built, all the careful repairs to both car and relationship, seemed to crumble. Marcus walked over to her, his movements stiff and formal. "I came to give you these," he said quietly, placing her car keys in her palm. "The Capri's running perfectly. You won't have any problems for the preview." "Marcus?" Elena began, her voice breaking slightly. "What you heard were my exact words from that night," he finished for her. "I know. I was there." "Please let me explain," she tried again. "There's nothing to explain," Marcus said, his voice controlled. "I thought we were moving past it, building something new. But I can't be your lesson in becoming a better person, Elena. I can't be the story you tell to show how much you've grown." The words hit Elena like physical blows. "That's not what this is," she protested. "That's not what you are to me." "Isn't it?" Marcus challenged quietly. "Look around you. This is your world. I was just visiting." Before she could respond, he turned and walked out of the gallery, his back straight and proud. Elena stood frozen, the keys clutched tightly in her hand, feeling as though something precious had just slipped through her fingers. Cole appeared at her side, his expression sympathetic, but with an undercurrent of satisfaction. "Everything okay?" "No," Elena said honestly. "Nothing is okay." She walked away from him, from the whispers, from the polished facade of the gallery that suddenly felt hollow. Outside, she watched Marcus's van disappear around a corner, taking with it the genuine connection that had been growing between them. The Capri sat in its designated spot, gleaming and perfect, the result of their shared work, their shared time. But as Elena looked at it now, she wondered if the most important repair had been left unfinished. That night, rain fell again over Boston, drumming against Elena's bedroom window in a persistent rhythm that matched her restless thoughts. She sat cross-legged on her bed, a blank piece of stationery before her, pen in hand. The elegant paper, cream-colored with her initials embossed at the top, felt too formal, too polished for what she needed to say. She set it aside and reached instead for a simple notebook. For hours, Elena wrote and rewrote her thoughts, trying to find words that could bridge the gap that had opened between her and Marcus. Nothing felt right. Nothing felt honest enough. Finally, in the early hours of the morning, she wrote from her heart without filters or careful phrasing. No excuses, no performance, just truth. Marcus, I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness or another chance. I'm writing because you deserve the truth, plain and unvarnished. What you heard at the gallery was exactly what I said that night. Those words came from my mouth, from my fear, from parts of me I didn't even know existed until they spilled out in that moment of panic. I have been trying to make it right, not to ease my conscience or to prove something to others, but because hurting you was wrong. Full stop. You deserved better then, and you deserve better now. These past 2 weeks working alongside you have changed me. Not because I was trying to learn a lesson or grow as a person, but because your honesty, your integrity, your way of moving through the world with dignity and care showed me a different way to be. When we kissed, it wasn't part of some redemption story I was writing for myself. It was real. You are real to me, Marcus. More real than anyone has been in a very long time. I understand if you need space or if this door is closed. I respect your boundaries and your dignity too much to push. But I wanted you to know that what we built together, both the car and the connection, matters deeply to me. No expectations, just truth, Elena. She sealed the letter in a simple envelope and placed it by her keys. As dawn broke, Elena finally fell into a restless sleep, the rain still falling outside her window. When Marcus arrived at his garage early the next morning, he found the envelope on his workbench. He knew immediately who it was from. For a long moment, he just stared at it, unsure whether to open it or throw it away. The hurt from yesterday was still fresh, not just from the overheard conversation, but from the realization that perhaps what had been growing between them wasn't as real as he'd thought. The bell above the door chimed as Mr. Ortega entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You're here early," the older man observed, setting 1 coffee beside Marcus. "Lots to do," Marcus replied, his voice flat. Mr. Ortega glanced at the envelope, then at Marcus's troubled expression. "From the Whitmore girl?" Marcus nodded, surprised. "You know about that? Small neighborhood?" Mr. Ortega shrugged. "Small city?" "Then you've probably heard what she said?" Marcus said, his jaw tightening. "I heard," Mr. Ortega confirmed. "Also heard how she's been here every day, working alongside you, learning, trying." Marcus looked up at his old friend and mentor. "It's complicated." "Life usually is," Mr. Ortega agreed. "You know what I've always told you. Protect your dignity, but accept sincere repair when it's offered." "How do I know if it's sincere?" Marcus asked quietly. Mr. Ortega nodded toward the envelope. "Maybe start by reading her words." After the older man left, Marcus slowly opened the envelope and read Elena's letter. Once, twice, 3 times. There were no excuses, no carefully crafted explanations. Just honest words that reflected the same qualities he'd come to appreciate in her over their days working together. Marcus placed the letter in his top drawer, then walked over to the Capri that still sat in his garage. He ran his hand over its sleek hood, remembering their shared hours of work, their conversations, the moment their hands had touched over the engine. With a decisive click, he opened the hood latch. Elena arrived at the garage just before noon, her heart pounding. She hadn't been sure Marcus would even be there, let alone willing to see her. When she walked in, she found him bent over the Capri's engine, methodically working on the oil seal they'd noticed yesterday. He looked up when she entered, his expression guarded but not cold. "Hey." "Hey," Elena replied softly. "I wasn't sure if I'd still fix the car?" Marcus finished. "I said I would. I keep my word." "I know you do," Elena nodded. "That's one of the things I admire about you." An awkward silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken words and fresh hurt. "I got your letter," Marcus said finally. "I meant every word," Elena told him, meeting his eyes directly. Marcus studied her face for a long moment. "No more excuses? No more image management?" "No more," Elena promised. "Just me, the real me, good and bad, trying to be better not for show, but because it's right." "And what does the real Elena want?" Marcus asked, his voice softening slightly. "To help finish what we started," she said, gesturing to the car. "And to listen more than I speak." A hint of a smile touched Marcus's lips. "I can work with that." Elena rolled up her sleeves and joined him at the engine. They worked together in focused silence, their movements in sync despite the tension that still lingered between them. This time, Elena was careful to follow Marcus's lead, asking questions when needed, but mostly observing and assisting. The work was therapeutic, tangible, clear, with visible progress. Oil seal fixed, gaskets checked, connections tightened. Simple problems with straightforward solutions, unlike the complicated emotions they were both navigating. As they were finishing up, the garage door opened and Tasha walked in, still in her scrubs from her shift. She stopped short when she saw Elena, her eyebrows rising in surprise. "Hi," Elena said nervously. Tasha looked from Elena to her brother, clearly assessing the situation. "Didn't expect to see you here." "We're just finishing the oil seal," Marcus explained, his tone neutral. Tasha watched as Elena wiped her hands clean and thanked Marcus quietly for his guidance. There was no performance in Elena's manner, no attempt to impress or manage perceptions. Just genuine appreciation. After a moment, Tasha nodded once, a small gesture of acknowledgement, if not quite acceptance. "I brought lunch," she said, holding up a bag. "There's enough for 3 if you're hungry." It was a small olive branch, and Elena accepted it gratefully. "Thank you. That's very kind." They ate together in the small office area of the garage, the conversation gradually easing from stiff politeness to something more natural. Tasha shared stories from her night shift, and Elena listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions about her work as a nurse aide. "You really care about your patients," Elena observed. "They're people, not cases," Tasha said simply. "Everyone deserves dignity and respect, especially when they're vulnerable." The words resonated with Elena, echoing what she had been learning from Marcus all along. As lunch ended, Tasha gathered the containers and gave her brother a meaningful look before leaving. The message was clear: proceed with caution, but the door wasn't completely closed. After Tasha left, Elena helped Marcus clean up the workspace, their movements gradually falling back into their familiar rhythm. "The car will be ready for the preview," Marcus said as they put away the tools. "No more issues to worry about." "Thank you," Elena said sincerely. "Not just for the car." Marcus nodded, understanding what she meant. "One day at a time, Elena. That's how real change happens." As she left the garage that evening, Elena felt a cautious hope. Not everything was fixed, not by a long shot, but they had made a start. A real one this time, built on truth rather than performance. The evening before the gallery preview, Elena was going over last-minute details when she heard the gallery door open. Looking up, she was surprised to see her mother walk in with a bakery box in hand. "I thought you might need something sweet after all this planning," Vivian explained, placing the box on Elena's desk. "Those scones you like from Berkeley's." "Thanks, Mom." Elena smiled tiredly. "That's thoughtful." Vivian looked around at the preparations, nodding with approval. "Everything looks lovely, darling. Your father would be so proud." The mention of her father made Elena think of Marcus, of the connection Mr. Ortega had revealed. "Mom?" she began carefully. "Do you remember Dad ever helping a young mechanic? Maybe through Mr. Ortega at the corner shop?" Vivian's brow furrowed in thought. "Oh, goodness, that was years ago. Yes, I believe he did. Thomas was always helping someone or other." She smiled fondly at the memory. "Why do you ask?" "Because that young mechanic taught the man who's been fixing grandfather's car," Elena explained. "Marcus Hale." "Hale?" Vivian repeated, her expression changing. "Wait, is he about 6 feet tall? Very professional manner?" Elena nodded, surprised. "Yes, that's him. How did you—" "He changed my tire the other night," Vivian said, shaking her head in amazement. "In that awful rain. Wouldn't take any money for it. I had no idea he was the same Marcus you've been talking about." Elena couldn't hide her smile. "That sounds like him." Vivian sat down across from Elena, her expression turning serious. "Darling, I owe you an apology. I've been so worried about appearances and what people might think that I haven't been listening to what you've been saying. This young man sounds like someone special." "He is," Elena agreed softly. "He's taught me a lot about doing things the right way, even when it's harder. About dignity and honesty." "Important lessons." Vivian nodded. "Your father would approve." "They won't, no?" Shared a smile, a new understanding forming between them. "Will he be at the preview tomorrow?" Vivian asked. "I hope so," Elena replied. "The car is ready, thanks to him." "Then I look forward to meeting him properly," Vivian said, rising to leave. "And Elena? I'm proud of you too." After her mother left, Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders. One more bridge mending, one more step toward being the person she wanted to be, rather than the person others expected her to see. The night of the preview arrived, the gallery transformed into an elegant showcase for both art and philanthropy. The Capri held a place of honor near the entrance, its classic lines and gleaming finish drawing admiring glances from arriving guests. Elena moved through the crowd in a simple blue dress, greeting donors and discussing the charitable causes the auction would support. Her eyes kept drifting to the entrance, hoping to see Marcus arrive. Cole approached as she was speaking with a group of potential bidders, inserting himself smoothly into the conversation. "Elena has done wonders with the gallery," he told the group. "Her father's legacy is in excellent hands." The donors nodded approvingly, but Elena noticed how Cole emphasized her family connection rather than her own accomplishments. "If you'll excuse us for a moment," Cole said to the group, taking Elena's elbow to guide her away. Once they were alone, his smile faded. "I don't see your mechanic friend. Finally came to your senses?" "Actually," Elena replied evenly, removing his hand from her arm. "I invited him. The car wouldn't be here without his expertise." Cole's expression hardened. "Elena, be reasonable. You've made your point. You're very modern and open-minded, but this is business. Our donors are here for the art and the charity." Elena cut him off. "And if any of them have a problem with who I choose to associate with, they're welcome to take their donations elsewhere." "You can't mean that," Cole said incredulously. I've never meant anything more, Elena assured him. Now if you'll excuse me, I have guests to attend to. She walked away from him, feeling stronger with each step. The old Elena would have compromised to keep the peace, to maintain appearances. But the woman who had worked alongside Marcus, who had learned the value of doing things right even when it was harder, that woman knew better now. As she approached the Capri, Elena spotted a familiar figure standing beside it. Marcus had arrived, dressed in dark slacks and a blue button-down shirt that brought out the warmth in his brown skin. He was studying the car with a professional eye, nodding slightly at their handiwork. Elena's heart quickened as she walked toward him. You came. Marcus turned, a small smile playing at his lips. I said I would. It looks perfect, Elena said, gesturing to the car. Everyone's been admiring it. We did good work, Marcus agreed. Both of us. Before Elena could respond, Vivian approached them, her expression warm and welcoming. You must be Marcus, she said, extending her hand. I believe I owe you a proper thank you for rescuing me the other night. No thanks necessary, Mrs. Whitmore, Marcus replied, shaking her hand. Just glad I could help. Please, call me Vivian, she insisted. Elena has told me so much about your work on the Capri. It looks magnificent. As Vivian engaged Marcus in conversation, Elena watched with a mixture of surprise and joy. Her mother was making a genuine effort, asking Marcus thoughtful questions about his business and listening with real interest to his answers. When Vivian excused herself to greet some arriving donors, Marcus turned to Elena with raised eyebrows. Your mother seems different than I expected, he admitted. She's trying, Elena said, just like I am. The gallery director approached them then, informing Elena it was time for her to say a few words about the auction. She nodded and made her way to the small podium set up near the Capri. As the room quieted, Elena looked out at the gathered donors, artists, and friends. She saw Cole at the back, his expression tight with disapproval. She saw her mother, watching with encouraging eyes. And she saw Marcus, standing quietly beside the car they had restored together. Thank you all for coming tonight, Elena began. This auction supports causes that are close to my heart, and I'm grateful for your generosity. She gestured to the artwork displayed around the room, briefly highlighting the talented artists who had contributed pieces. Then she turned to the Capri. This car was my grandfather's pride and joy, she continued. He left it to me to care for, and recently it needed some significant restoration work. Elena's eyes found Marcus in the crowd. I'd like to thank the professional who made this restoration possible, Marcus Hale. Not only did he apply his considerable expertise to bring this car back to life, but he also helped me become a better person in the process. A murmur went through the crowd, but Elena kept her focus on Marcus, whose expression showed surprise at being acknowledged so publicly. Sometimes we say things we don't mean, Elena said, her voice clear and steady. And sometimes we're given the gift of a chance to make things right. Not through words, but through actions, through honesty and dignity, and doing things the right way, even when it's harder. She saw understanding dawn in the eyes of those who had heard the rumors, saw Cole turn and walk out a side door, saw her mother's proud smile. Tonight isn't just about beautiful objects, Elena concluded. It's about recognizing the beauty and treating each other with respect and kindness. Thank you all for being part of that. The applause that followed felt different somehow, warmer, more genuine. As Elena stepped away from the podium, several people approached to shake Marcus's hand, clearly impressed by the work he had done on the car. Later, as the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Elena found Marcus outside, standing beside the Capri. thank you for what you said in there," he said quietly. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," Elena replied. "It was the truth." Marcus studied her face for a moment. "No more image management?" "No more," Elena promised. "Just real. Sometimes messy, sometimes imperfect, but always honest." Marcus smiled then, a full, genuine smile that transformed his face. "I can work with that." He opened the driver's door of the Capri. "Want to take her for a spin? Make sure she's still purring?" Elena's heart lightened. "I'd like that very much." The car started flawlessly, the engine humming with contented power as they pulled away from the gallery. Through the rearview mirror, Elena could see a few remaining guests applauding as they drove off, but she wasn't performing for them anymore. This was real. The car, the man beside her, the person she was becoming. No shortcuts, no image fixes, just truth. Sunday morning dawned clear and bright, the autumn air crisp with promise. Elena arrived at Mr. Ortega's coffee shop to find Marcus already waiting outside, 2 cups in hand. "Morning," he greeted her with a smile. "Ready for that road trip we talked about?" "Absolutely," Elena replied, accepting the coffee he offered. They had spent the day after the preview talking, really talking, about what had happened and where they might go from here. The conversation had been honest, sometimes uncomfortable, but ultimately healing. They had agreed to take things slowly, to continue building on the foundation of truth they had established. Today's drive along the coast was their first step forward. As they walked to the Capri, Vivian pulled up in her sedan, carrying a familiar bakery box. "Good morning, you two," she called cheerfully. "I thought you might like some scones for your drive." "Thank you, Mom," Elena said, surprised and touched by the gesture. "Thanks, Mrs. Whitmore," Marcus added with a warm smile. "Vivian, please," she reminded him. "Have a wonderful day, both of you." As Vivian drove away, Marcus's phone chimed with a text. He glanced at it and chuckled. "From Tasha," he explained, showing Elena the screen. A simple smiling emoji that spoke volumes about her sister's growing acceptance. They settled into the Capri, the engine starting with a confident purr. Elena placed the box of scones between them and carefully pulled away from the curb. "Where to first?" she asked, feeling a sense of freedom she hadn't experienced in years. "Wherever the road takes us," Marcus replied, his hand finding hers on the console. "I'm just happy to be along for the ride." Their fingers interlaced naturally, the connection between them strengthening with each honest word, each genuine moment. Elena knew they still had work to do, on themselves, on their relationship, on the perceptions of others. But for the first time, she wasn't worried about the image, only the substance. As they drove along the coast, the autumn sun glinting off the water, Elena felt a deep contentment settle in her chest. The Capri's engine hummed steadily beneath them, a reminder of how broken things could be made whole again with care, patience, and honesty. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" Marcus asked, his thumb gently stroking the back of her hand. "For teaching me that real repair starts from the inside out," Elena replied. "In cars, and in people." Marcus's smile reached all the way to his eyes. "Some things are worth fixing right." The Capri carried them forward, its restored heart beating in perfect rhythm with their own. The road stretched ahead, full of possibilities neither of them could predict, but both were ready to explore. Together, honestly, 1 mile at a time.